Hello, Abuja. Hello, Nigeria. Welcome to Rapid Dawn. I know you're missing me on screens this morning, but we're back here and we're up for the business of today. I had a fantastic time listening to the children. Well, they said something like, adults, sit back, class is in session. What are they actually teaching us? But I love to see children in their element and doing the most. Happy Children's Day to all the wonderful children all around the world. You all make the world a better place. But now we're back to the adult session, and children, class is in session. So today our conversation is about the emotional burden of being a responsible daughter. I know that being a woman on its own has its own responsibility and the burden of just being, a certain kind of way, because when we are born, we're thought to be good wives, we're taught to be homely, we're already thought to carry out responsibilities for the time that we are not yet living in. And aside that, we also have the responsibility of being responsible. They are daughters, but they are also responsible daughters. And today I have three very beautiful ladies who, of course, are responsible and have the audacity to have this conversation this morning. I'm starting by my left. I have Mrs. Alugift Ogbaje. Thank you so much for joining us on the show this morning. All right, and I have Phoebe Yomazaka here. Thank you so much for joining me.
Thank you so much.
And I also have Dolapo Obafumi. Thank you so much for joining us on the conversation this morning. Just hearing Dolapo, are you Pastor Dolapo's related to Pastor Dolapo? But that aside, now let's talk. There is an emotional burden of being a responsible daughter, being a responsible person, but being a responsible daughter also is a responsibility. So I just want to hear what your thoughts are regarding being the responsible daughter, or the burden of being a responsible daughter. Let's start off with you.
Good morning once again, and happy Children's Day to all children out there. I don't know,
like there's a lot
because there's a lot. Like being a responsible daughter and being the first also. So it comes with a lot of challenges, it comes with a lot of responsibilities, and as the presenter said, we are prepared for it even before time. Before we step into the shoes, we're already prepared for it. And I always like to ask that why is it that we only focus on training girls to be responsible daughters and not also training boys to be responsible sons and husbands out there? We have a lot of responsible daughters out there, but we don't have we have men that are responsible, we have few of them, but we have more of the women, because we are told that if you don't know how to cook in your husband's house, no man will marry you. If you don't know how to clean the house, no man will marry you. So we already have that at the back of our mind growing up. So part of it before discovering ourselves is trying to fit into that personality of being a good wife and being a good daughter. We are trained to be a good wife first before even being a responsible daughter, because at home you are told do this one. And like growing up for us, I came from a family where we were 8 daughters, and so my daddy trained us like not only as daughters but also to stand as men that can fill the gap. When I say men, not only provision, but also being able to do little things around the house. Like I washed my daddy's car when growing up. So now when I don't have the means or I don't have the time to take it to a car wash, I do it myself at home. And like fixing of bulb, I do it myself. I hardly call like people to do it for me. I do it. So it comes with a lot of and mental stress. It comes because you are always trying to fit into that personality. You are always trying to be up and doing, so that your parents will see you that this one is becoming a responsible girl. Don't be a lazy girl. Tomorrow when you marry in your husband's house, who will do this for you? That's African mothers for you. So not knowing that they are also training us and making us to become responsible. Because if they had not done that, I think we'll have a lot of girls that are lazy out there. If they had not stressed on that, they trained us and they also trained us for ourselves.
All right.
That's my take on it.
Thank you so much. Let's hear Phoebe. What are your thoughts on this topic?
And being the responsible daughter, I feel like there's so much pressure on we as females being the responsible daughter from home. Our parents, most times they be like, oh, don't do this, don't do that. I want you to create this perfect figure of you being a responsible daughter. And sometimes they don't also come back to check on how we cope living, trying to fit into this perfect picture. Sometimes it does not align with our personalities. Sometimes our personalities, they don't care about how our personalities are. They just want us to have that perfect, especially when there are like other figures of like perfect people out there, but they do not know how, like they do not try to understand from our perspective. So I feel like there's so much burden on being the responsible daughter, and there's no much checkup on how we're coping, how we're trying to fill in the gap, how we're putting in effort on being the responsible
to fitting that narrative. All right, let's hear you. What do you think, Dolapo? What do you think about this burden of being the responsible daughter? The way both of you started with okay.
First of all, I really like the angle everyone's coming from, and for me, I would say that first of all, there is a natural responsibility that comes with both being a human being first, then being a woman or a man as well too, because they have also they have a burden as well. So I feel, for me, that the natural burden is there for us. It's just there for us to flow into. But then there is a societal approach as well to these natural burdens that we have. It's okay that we have these natural burdens, and that for me, I believe that if you have if certain things are put in place by nature, there is the grace nature has given you to carry such out. But then it is the duty of the society as well to help assist nature as well, carry out this responsibility with ease. For being a daughter in the society, I think that that burden should be sort of approached in two ways, which is one, it should be approached from a place of sympathy and empathy, and then it should be approached as a human being, just being human.
All right. Well, I think everyone has spoken like really well, but yes, I understand that. And from my perspective, I don't share like a different thought from what every other person has spoken about. There is that burden. And I also come from a family where it's just women. So just think about the burden as double. You are learning how to survive in the world that they call the man's world. You are learning how to be independent. You are learning to know that nothing is going to be given to you on a platter of gold just because you're a woman. You also deserve to work and all of that. And I know that our trainings are quite different, but I always say to my siblings that I tried to deconstruct that narrative when it got to me. Oh, don't work. I loved working, so I did it. So I believe that as individuals, we also play like a very vital role. She said something, while you grow and you now understand who you are and what you want for yourself, that whole conditioning that has been done to you by the family and the society doesn't just go away. It's a conscious effort. You make a conscious effort to break that stereotype or that box that society has put you in. So I think that we also have like a very important part to play when it comes to deconstructing that mindset or that narrative that society has put us into. But there's something also very important I want to talk about. The fact that we haven't known that this is such a burden on us. We pass on that burden to the people that we also raise. Because now you would hear parents say things like, that's how I was raised, I didn't die, And you said something, Phoebe, the parents don't try to know the effect of that conditioning to us. So they keep doing it because they don't know what's the effect of it. So you now continue that circle, thinking, okay, we are responsible anyways, we didn't turn out so bad. But we forget the mental part of that training, which is what I want us to address right now. How can we mentally work on becoming who we want rather than what society has conditioned us to be? We have now established that it's quite a burden to be the responsible daughter. Because I mean, once you start vomiting, they don't care if it's malaria or typhoid. Where did you go to? Are you pregnant? Let's go for pregnancy test. It happens, not just your parents. Society also does it to you. Oh, this person's daughter was vomiting in church. Let's go and check her. Let's go and check up on her. Maybe she did something. You see, all of those kinds of things. And then there's that mental conditioning that says, as a woman, if you have a certain amount of money, it's questionable. It's a man that gave it to you. And society is changing, honestly. Women are now being more dogged where they are. Oh, I need us to talk about, for young girls who will be listening to us this morning, I need us to talk about how we can work on these mental constructs that we find ourselves in and becoming better versions of ourselves. Let's start with... okay, let's start with Dolapo. Maybe say Dolapo. Okay, let's start with Dolapo.
One of the things I would say to us is to find yourself. There's so much rooted in identity, and I think it's one of the fundamental problems of humanity in general. Just identity. The society would paint a narrative for you, it to give you an ideology, to give you a construct. However, there's you. You need to know yourself. Nobody knows you better than you. You can put up a face to everybody. As a firstborn daughter, you can put up a face. Every somebody will ask you, "How are you?" The next response you give is, "I'm fine." And the reason it's a programming. You are not fine, but you can't tell somebody you are not fine because other people look up to you to be fine, and then they expect your fine to rub off on them so they can be fine. I don't know.
That's a very long line.
If that makes sense.
A very long line.
But it's just that thing. But then there is you, and if you come to that realization, there is that realization. Permit me to paint this narrative from the prodigal son. The Bible said that the prodigal son realized himself. He came to himself, and then he said to himself, "I will arise and go to my father." Like, no be this.
There's love at home.
There's love at home. Thank you. There's love at home. And I think for every woman, for every young girl, there is that point you need to get to look at yourself and say, who is me? What am I made of? What's the stuff I'm made of? And by the time we begin to think and ponder on those things and see ourselves for who we truly are through the eyes of the Creator himself, then I think I feel that is the starting point. I would give the starting point. I will allow
Okay, let's hear from you. How do you think we can
I will talk from my point as a mother.
Okay.
Because growing up, my mom was a teacher. She was a very, very strict and rigid woman. Like, not flexible. You're growing up to be a good child is non-negotiable. Because you are all girls and the world is looking at me, I'm under pressure. Like, they cared so much about what people had to say. And so they had to put us under that pressure. Thankful enough, that time God, the kind of children or the generation that I was not this wild. So that kind of training not gonna now, like it. You cannot give it to a child. Like my first daughter, I can't even try it with her. But before I started having children, I had to go for therapy. I had to learn, unlearn and relearn so many things. Because if you bring up a child in that condition now, you are driving that child far, far away from you.
Absolutely.
Though there are some things that they did that helped us, but most of it was in the wrong. Because that was the way they felt was the best for them at that time. But I had to be a little flexible. I had to make my daughter my friend, so that anything that goes on, she can let me know, she can fill me in. We talk like friends, we talk like sisters. There's nothing she can't, even my boys. We are so close, they can say anything to me. Once they are confused about a thing, they come and they ask and say, "Mommy, this is it." So I think that before we even step into that place where we can start raising children and having children, we have to go for therapy. Because most things our parents did was not funny.
trauma.
Honestly, it's traumatic. If you do it to a child now, you lose that child.
Yes.
So I think we need to also learn to discover ourselves also, as you said, and you can do that through therapy. when we go and we are able to let go of such offenses. Because if you don't let go, you hold the gun and you know unknowingly you will carry it out on your children. So we have to learn to discover ourselves in the process of that therapy, then learn, unlearn and relearn, then learn to forgive and let go, so that we can have new ideas. We can also be able to have peace in ourselves, so that we can bring up anybody around us.
All right. Thank you very much for that. Let's hear you, Phoebe.
Okay, I guess I'm going to be talking like based on the Gen Z perspective.
I love it. Okay.
So for the mental aspect, I feel like we first have to understand ourselves. Like she said, when you understand yourself, there's so many things that you get to avoid, especially when the pressure is coming from your parents. Because your parents' perspective may be like totally different from our perspective. So when you understand yourself, I know that, okay, when your parents are bringing tension or some specific kind of burden, emotional burden to you, you understand yourself and you're like, no, I do not want this. This is not how I want. So far as your perspective is not negative, so far as it's also positive and it's not going to affect you on the long run, you just have to say, oh, this is what I want. This is how I want to live my life. This is how I want to
be a better
this
person.
is how I want to be a better person
Yes.
in the society.
And I believe that this conversation should have like a part 2 where we will talk about how, as young people, you need to discover yourself. Yesterday, I was in a call with one of my sisters, and she asked me a question. She normally will call and say, "How are you? How are you doing?" I said, "I'm fine." But yesterday, that "how are you" sounded really different. She was like, "How are you? What are you really doing?" And that question threw me off balance for a second. And I'm like, that's a question. I thought about that the whole of yesterday. How are you really doing? What are you really doing? Are you just busy going with routines, forgetting yourself in the process? Or you want to do this, you want to get the job done. But how are you really? I feel like the journey to discovering yourself, first, I say it to anybody, is first learning about yourself. As an individual, I'm Martha. Who is Martha? What does she like? What does she not like? Who does she like to associate with? Sometimes I'm almost very vocal about it. I don't like what you're doing. It took me a long journey to be able to get to the point where I challenge what it is you have done to me. I don't like what it is you have done to me, and you must never speak to me like that again. You must never do that to me again. And once you do that, it looks like the universe aligns for you. But in truth, it was you who set boundaries. And once you have set that boundary, you can do a very proper introspection.
Yes.
Because if you haven't set that boundary, people will tell you who you are if you haven't told yourself who you are. And you have to agree, because you haven't even told yourself anything about yourself. So that question took me all the way back to my why. Why am I doing what I'm doing? What brought me here? How have I found myself here doing the things that I'm doing? Is it just for routine, or do I have a bigger picture? And I believe that it starts from that point. And I see something on X, and they say, once you have gotten to a certain age, at least 30, 25 to 30, you can no longer hold on to what your parents did to you as the reason that you are how you are. Because now you have an opportunity to learn. So you cannot say, I'm like this because this is how my parents did, what my parents did to me. There was trauma from that point. But now you are an adult. You know what you want. Your parents don't choose the clothes you wear for you anymore. They don't choose your friends for you. They don't choose where you go. So it is for you to carry out like a personal and an intentional act towards rebranding yourself into a better version. She said something about raising Gen Zs in this generation, Phoebe's generation. You know, when you're raising Gen Zs, you need to be careful with your language. Your parents then can tell you, you're very stupid, get out of here, you're very sick. A Gen Z will tell you, Mommy, don't talk to me like that. Mommy, why are you calling me stupid? You know, I happen to know her kids, and she was so upset. She was driving them to school. She was so upset. A trailer was parked in front of their building, and then she was upset and she used a bad word. That's what they call it. And then they went, you used a bad word. That's so wrong. You're telling your African parents at that time that what she said was wrong. You too, you collect what that driver was about to collect. And in fact, that beating, they could not beat the driver. You collect it. So you see, if you are not intentional about raising people in this generation, how this dispensation, and you said something about the prodigal son, but I'll take from the, you cannot put a new wine in an old wine skin. Many people don't really understand what that scripture means, but literally, if you have a new wine and you have a new wine skin,
Yes.
if you pour the new wine in the new wine skin, it expands.
Yes.
So it expands to accommodate that new wine.
Yes.
So if there is another new wine and you put it in that old wine skin, it will burst
Yes.
logically. So it's the same thing with raising people in different dispensations.
Yes.
This is a Gen Z dispensation. In this era, it's different. We talk to children differently here. So you have to adapt to that era.
Yeah.
Okay, our time is fast spent. This is sounding like therapy, but let's just ask quickly. If you are to speak to young girls who haven't found themselves and still in the burden and the pressure of being a responsible daughter is not a bad thing.
Yes.
How you make the person be a responsible daughter is where we have the problem.
Yeah.
So let's speak to people who are still in that burden of being a responsible daughter and trying to find themselves. Let's just do a 1 minute wrap up here. Let's start with you.
Okay. I would love to say that being a responsible daughter or being in the process of being one, it has to start with you. When you first of all discover, rediscover, and whatever, discover yourself, then the other thing I would love to say is this, that always put yourself first. Your family will always be fine.
Absolutely.
Always put yourself first. Sometimes you'll be selfish too. Say, okay, let me take myself out. Let me do this for myself. Because that family, if you are not there, family moves on.
Continues.
So please, even in our trying to be responsible daughters and children, we should always try to also put ourselves first because we also matter. Thank you.
Absolutely. Let's go to Phoebe.
So for the young ones, I'll say my
My I saw that coming.
I'd say we should always invest in ourselves, like she said. Invest in yourself, invest in your emotions, invest in your mental health. Most times people overlook mental health like something really small, but our mental health affects our life generally. It affects our life like on a great scale. So we should always try to check up on ourselves mentally whenever external factors are coming in to overstress us or overburden us. We should learn how to say no. I do not want this. I want to focus on myself. I do not want this energy. I do not want this reaction. I'm not going to accept this. I feel if we learn to say no to negative factors, it's going to help us grow mentally and physically and emotionally. So we should invest in ourselves.
Beautiful. Let's have the laptop.
I will follow from the train of thought so that it can also be. So I won't say what they've said as well. I would say two things. One, you have to think insight and foresight. It's very important. So you're going to look at yourself, you're going to look inward, and then you're going to look forward. If you look at yourself 10 years from now, how do you want to see yourself? Do you want to be that lady that is looking like 50 when she's just 35? I mean, you have a long time. Your children, look at your children, look at your husband, look at the mother you want to be. If you see your parents have done this to you, you need to look at yourself and say, God, help me not to be that kind of person. So you need to begin to think, be a forward thinker. They have said rebranding. They have said, look at yourself. The next thing you need, begin to look, have insight, have foresight, look forward. Begin to tell yourself, 10 years from now, I want to be that mother that I would not have to raise a hand to hit you or hit a child, to tell the child what to do. I'll be that woman filled with wisdom on how to handle children of this age, because there's a wisdom for this age, and we need to discover that wisdom. We need to understand it, and we need to know the process of dispensing it. That is very important.
All right. Well, I don't know why this program happened to be 30 minutes today. It should be longer, but I mean, we had to give the children their space. But this is where we wrap it up for today. Thank you so much for joining us on the Wrap It Down and on the Girls Hangout. We definitely will have a rematch of this topic, maybe next week or some other time. But remember, we're active across social media platforms, on Facebook, on Instagram, on X, and on X is now Twitter. Is now X, right? It is at Rapid TV. On our YouTube page, it is at official Rapid TV. So you can rewatch, you can send to friends and family and let them know what's going on the Girls Hangout. Finally, www.rbnradiotv.com allows you to connect with us from anywhere in the world. Thank you so much for being a part of our program. Thank you every single guest who made our time to discuss with us today. My name is Martha Alu, and I will see you tomorrow.